Before we jump into this video about HOA drama and holiday lights, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Trust me, if you love seeing Karens get roasted, you're in the right place. Have you ever been so excited to celebrate the holidays that you poured your heart into decorations, only to have someone try to ruin it? That's exactly where my story begins. Picture this. It was the start of December. The air was crisp, and my kids had been begging me for weeks to put up our holiday lights. I decided to go all out this year. Colorful strands, a glowing reindeer on the lawn, and a sparkling archway leading up to our door. It wasn't over the top like those houses that end up on TV specials, but it was festive, warm, and cheerful. Exactly what the season is supposed to feel like. And then came Karen. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Karen is the president of our HOA, and let me just say, she takes her role way too seriously. This is the kind of woman who measures grass with a ruler, reports trash bins if they're out for more than 5 minutes, and writes nasty emails about neighborhood uniformity. So, when she saw my lights twinkling from down the street, I could practically hear the steam whistling out of her ears. The very next evening, after I'd just finished adjusting the lights with my son, I spotted her marching up my driveway with a clipboard in hand. Her expression? Like she had just bitten into a lemon. "Do you realize," she began, her tone sharp and loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "that your holiday lights are in violation of HOA regulations?" I blinked. Regulations? Karen, it's December. Everyone has lights. But Karen shook her head and slapped her clipboard. "Not everyone. We have strict guidelines. White lights only. No colored bulbs, no lawn ornaments, and your display exceeds the brightness limit by at least..." She paused to squint at her paper. 20 lumens. Yes, she actually said lumens. I couldn't help but laugh. "Karen, are you seriously trying to measure holiday spirit with a light meter?" Her glare could have melted ice. "Laugh all you want, but I'll be filing a violation report. That's a $200 fine unless you remove the lights by tomorrow." At that moment, neighbors started peeking out their doors. Some whispered, others smiled, and I knew right then this was going to be bigger than a simple holiday decoration. Karen wasn't just trying to fine me, she was trying to control me. And if there's one thing I don't do, it's back down when I know I'm right. Because what happened next turned my little string of holiday lights into the hottest topic on the block, and ultimately, the reason Karen got roasted like chestnuts on an open fire. The day after Karen's dramatic driveway showdown, I half expected to find a bright orange violation notice taped to my door. Instead, I found something else: support. When I went out to grab the morning paper, my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, waved me over. She's lived in the neighborhood for nearly 30 years. The kind of sweet older lady who always bakes pies for the block. She leaned in and whispered, "Don't let her bully you, dear. Your lights look beautiful." Then, with a mischievous grin, she added, "I've got a box of old decorations in my garage. Maybe it's time I put them up too." By that afternoon, the whispers had spread like wildfire. Families who usually stuck to simple porch lights suddenly started adding reindeer, candy canes, and snowmen to their lawns. Even the Johnsons, who were notorious for being too busy, draped their bushes in blinking lights. It was as if the entire neighborhood was staging a quiet rebellion against Karen's clipboard tyranny. Of course, Karen noticed. That evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and the neighborhood lit up like a winter wonderland, she stormed out of her house. I kid you not. She was waving a flashlight like a sword and muttering about violations stacking up. She went door to door, scribbling notes furiously. But the more houses she passed, the redder her face became. Finally, she returned to my lawn, where she spotted me sipping hot cocoa with my wife. "This is your fault," she hissed, pointing her flashlight beam straight at my reindeer. "You've set a terrible example. Now everyone's breaking the rules. This entire block is out of compliance." I raised my mug in a mock toast. Or maybe, Karen, everyone's just trying to enjoy the season. Behind her, a group of neighbors chuckled. Someone even clapped. Karen spun around, clearly flustered, and shouted, "This isn't funny!" "You'll all be fined. Every single one of you!" But here's the thing. HOA rules aren't laws. They're guidelines. And they're only enforceable if the board backs them. Karen was the president, but she wasn't the board. And as it turned out, more than a few board members were enjoying their new holiday inflatables. I could see it in her eyes. For the first time, Karen realized she was losing control. And instead of standing down, she doubled down. The very next morning, I got the violation notice I'd been expecting. But this one was different. It wasn't for $200, it was for $500, and written across the top in bold letters were the words, "Final warning." Karen had declared war. When I pulled that $500 violation notice off my door, I couldn't decide whether to laugh or fume. $500 for lights that half the neighborhood was now proudly displaying. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was trying to make an example out of me. But here's the thing about trying to humiliate someone publicly. It can backfire spectacularly. And I was about to make sure it did. First, I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture of the violation notice. Then I took another picture, this time of my house glowing in full holiday cheer, with my kids smiling out front. Finally, I added one more, a wide shot of the entire street lit up like Times Square. I uploaded them to our neighborhood Facebook group with a simple caption. Apparently, I'm being fined $500 for having holiday spirit. Anyone else get one of these? The post exploded. Dozens of comments rolled in within minutes. Some neighbors admitted they'd gotten notices too, though for smaller amounts, $100 here, $200 there. Others posted pictures of their decorations, proudly showing off their defiance. The thread turned into a holiday rebellion headquarters. But the best part? 2 members of the HOA board chimed in. One wrote, "This is the first I'm hearing of a $500 fine. That's not authorized." Another commented, "Holiday lights? Seriously? We didn't agree to this." Karen must have been watching the thread, because not long after she posted a long, angry comment in all caps. "The rules are clear. Violations will be enforced. Anyone who fails to comply will face additional fines." That comment alone got her roasted harder than chestnuts at Christmas. People piled on with memes, jokes, and sarcastic remarks. Someone even photoshopped her face onto the Grinch stealing Christmas. It went viral in the group overnight. But I wasn't done. I decided to do a little homework. I dug out the official HOA bylaws, something most people never bother to read. And guess what? There was nothing, absolutely nothing, about colored lights, inflatables, or brightness levels. The only rule was that holiday decorations couldn't stay up later than January 15th, that was it. So the very next evening, when Karen marched down the street with her flashlight and clipboard again, I was ready. She stopped at my lawn, glaring at my glowing reindeer. "Your fine stands," she declared. "Ignore it, and it will double." I pulled out the printed bylaws I'd highlighted in neon yellow. "Actually, Karen, no it won't. Because according to Section 7, Paragraph B, holiday decorations are perfectly allowed, as long as they're removed by January 15th, which means..." I gestured toward my lights. "I'm in complete compliance." Her jaw dropped. She sputtered. She turned red. And then she snapped. The moment I finished reading the bylaws out loud, Karen's face went through about 5 shades of red. Her clipboard trembled in her hands as neighbors slowly gathered around, drawn by the sound of her raised voice and the glow of my lights. It was like a stage had formed, and Karen was about to perform the meltdown of the century. "You think you're clever," she spat, jabbing a finger at me. "But I run this neighborhood. Me. And if I say your lights are against the rules, then they're against the rules." I raised an eyebrow. "That's not how bylaws work. Karen, you don't get to invent rules just because you don't like something." Behind me, I heard someone chuckle. Then another neighbor chimed in. "Yeah, Karen, maybe you should read the handbook before handing out fines." A ripple of laughter spread through the group. Karen spun around, glaring at the small crowd. "This isn't funny. You're all undermining the order of this community. Do you realize what happens if people start ignoring the rules? Chaos, anarchy." Someone from the back shouted, "Oh no! A snowman inflatable apocalypse!" The crowd erupted in laughter. Karen's voice rose to a shriek. "I am the HOA president. You have to listen to me." That's when one of the actual board members, Mr. Diaz, stepped forward. Calm, cool, collected. "Karen," he said firmly, "the HOA president enforces rules that the board approves. And this," he gestured toward my lights and the glowing reindeer, "this isn't against the rules. You've overstepped." Karen froze, like someone had hit pause on her meltdown. "What are you talking about?" "Of course it's against the rules." "No," Mr. Diaz continued, pulling out his phone and holding up the bylaws I'd shared earlier. "It's not, and issuing fines without board approval is an abuse of power." The crowd gasped. A couple people even pulled out their phones, recording the entire exchange. Suddenly, the balance of power shifted. Karen wasn't the enforcer anymore. She was on trial. I couldn't resist leaning in just enough for her to hear me. "Looks like the only thing getting roasted this year is you." The neighbors howled with laughter. Phones flashed. And Karen? She let out a frustrated scream, stomped her foot like a child, and stormed off down the street muttering about ungrateful peasants. From that moment, she wasn't feared anymore. She was a punchline, and word spread quickly. Memes, jokes, even parody carol lyrics about Karen the HOA tyrant made the rounds. My lights became a neighborhood attraction and Karen's reputation toasted. But the story didn't end there, because once her power started slipping, the board decided it was time to make some changes. After Karen's meltdown, The neighborhood felt lighter, literally and figuratively. Holiday lights sparkled down every street, and the laughter that once hid behind closed doors now spilled into the open. People weren't afraid of Karen anymore. In fact, she'd become the neighborhood's favorite joke. But for Karen, things only got worse. A week later, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Normally, those meetings were small and dull, but this time, half the neighborhood showed up. Some even brought popcorn like it was movie night. And why not? Everyone wanted to see what would happen to the self-proclaimed queen of the community. Karen sat at the head of the table, chin high, arms crossed, acting like nothing was wrong. She started the meeting by declaring, "We are here to address rampant rule-breaking regarding holiday decorations." The room erupted with boos and laughter. Someone shouted, "Get over it, Karen!" Another yelled, "Merry Christmas!" Then Mr. Diaz, the same board member who had called her out on my lawn, stood up. His voice was calm but carried weight. "No, Karen. We're here to address your abuse of power. You issued fines that were never approved by the board. You threatened residents. You created unnecessary hostility. That's not leadership. That's bullying." Gasps filled the room. Karen's face twitched, but she tried to play it off. "I was enforcing order." "No," another board member cut in. "You were enforcing your own opinions, and that's not what this HOA stands for." The board members exchanged glances, and then Mr. Diaz dropped the hammer. "Effective immediately. You are removed as HOA president." The room exploded with applause. People cheered, clapped, even whistled. Karen's jaw fell open. She stammered, You can't do this! I built this neighborhood. But her words were drowned out by the sound of neighbors chanting, "Ding dong, Karen's gone." She stormed out, red-faced and humiliated, while phones recorded every step of her dramatic exit. By the time she reached her car, the footage was already hitting social media, and within days, the video of her meltdown and removal went viral. Not just in our neighborhood, but beyond. As for me, my lights stayed up all season, brighter than ever. Families from nearby blocks even drove over, just to see the house that roasted Karen. My kids were thrilled. My wife was proud, and the neighbors bonded in a way we never had before. The best part? The HOA, now under new leadership, voted to officially allow any and all holiday decorations, as long as they came down by mid-January. So in the end, Karen's crusade didn't just fail. It backfired spectacularly. She lost her title, her control, and her reputation. And me? I gained something better. The satisfaction of knowing that sometimes, the best way to fight a bully is to let the whole neighborhood join in the roast.